In when we was children, eh?
Well, first tell us what your name is.
Yeah, well, this is Charlie McHale from Portland, New York. And I live up here in this trailer. I call it a trailer. It's a double wide. And I think back, my house burned down. And the house that I lived in was over 100 years old. And of course, I wouldn't have traded that house for a dozen of these trailers. I liked the house so much better. But it burned flat, and that was the house that I was born in and we grew up in. And in our childhood times, we went to school up to Moose River Village. And
Where was that?
It was about 2.5 miles up the road here.
Is that where the
old hotel was?
Where the land levels out there and you got a good view of the river?
Yeah, where you come to the river on the circle.
The red schoolhouse there?
Yeah, beyond that. Well, the red schoolhouse. At one time, there were 65 children that went to that schoolhouse. There was over 300 people lived in the old village up there. But that was back when the tan race was running, and they used to tan hides up there, and they'd take them down to Portland, and they had wagons to load them on, and they'd take them down to Portland and put them on the canal and ship them.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I don't really recall that operation too much. There was a sawmill there. I remember when that was running up there, and they had a blacksmith shop and a dance hall and a hotel and a post office.
At Moose River Village?
At Moose River Village, yeah. The post office was up there, and there were quite a few. We all went there as children. There were 11 of us in the family, and
what year were you born? What's your birthday?
Born 1909, and
what day?
I'll be 80 this coming December 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we went to school up there. We had to walk. Back in those days, there wasn't any such thing as a taxi to take you.
Oh no.
Your feet had to do it. And when we was walking to school, of course, I had a kind of a funny thing that I used to do that I enjoyed very much, is I'd play the harmonica.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd play a march, and as I played this march, boom, 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 well, I'd step right off with that march.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you know, around the corner was the schoolhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to play, of course, the harmonica that way, and I played it ever since.
Did the other kids march with you?
No, I marched alone. I walked with them to school, yeah, we walked to school together, but I never was playing the march when they was along. I was doing it when I was alone, and it made it kind of nice. Well, the neighbor kids, they would come down here sometimes, and we'd be out sliding together and things like that. We'd do different things. Well, then, of course, as we grew up, my father was a farmer in the beginning, and we at one time had about 65 head of cattle here on this farm.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was large for those days.
It was, and we drew the milk down to the Porter's Corners down here to about 2.5 miles to the cheese factory.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the dairy went down, and the ground is so stony here that, well, you could hardly work it anyway. It is terrible stony and hard to work, and so it was always a little discouraging to crop up and farming. But that's why we kind of branched off. We owned a lot of land, and we kind of branched off from the logging end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many acres do you have here now?
Well, about 365 now I've sold off. We used to have about 3,500, but we sold them off. That is, eventually we got that much. They didn't back when Dad was around. My brother and I bought together lots after that and it hooked on, see, so we owned about 3,500 here in one block, and that made it give us a lot of land and a lot of logs and stuff, you know, and wood and everything, and we kind of capitalized onto the thing, but in the later years we kind of saved our timber and we went out and bought timber outside. And we cut off many and many wood lots outside. Back when I was I jobbed up in Parrishville, and I cut off 3,700 acres up there in one block. And that was a lot of territory too.
Parrishville, I'm trying to think where that was.
Up near Potsdam. Yeah, about 12 miles out of Potsdam. And I had men working for me. We put up a job up there. But then eventually my brother and I went back together. And not that we had any trouble that I separated. What really happened was that when I was working with him, we bought the first home light chainsaw in this area. And
I was going to ask you about that. First, one-man saw.
One-man saw. Well, prior to that, I was cutting with a two-man saw. It was a maul. It weighed 89 pounds. And I worked alone with that, and I said, boy, if I can ever get this, so 33 pounds, I said, well, I wouldn't know I had anything. And that's just about the way it felt. Well, it was just like a feather to me. And today, it had been an awful load. But I took the agency for the saw, and then I worked it all the winter. I took it in the fall and worked all winter with it, and I didn't try to sell any till I learned more about the saw, how it worked, and if it was dependable and everything, and how it started and always, and I found it to be a great success. And so in that following spring, I drove 5,000 miles talking the saws. I wasn't trying to sell, I'd just go to show them the saws, and they'd say, oh, we don't want to buy. I don't want you to buy. I said, I just want you to see what I got. And I said, introduce myself so you know who I am. And I used to have some tricks too. One guy, he said, you got a card? And I said, no, wait, I'll write right here on your feed box. And every time he'd open up the cover, my name was right in front of him. He couldn't forget who I was. And so I wrote in great big letters, and I sold him a saw incidentally.
You probably sold a lot of the saws to those people that didn't want to buy any, didn't you?
Oh yes, the following, they didn't buy that spring. See, I went out in the spring, and during the process of that spring showing the saws, I went back into Carter up there, and that's 7 miles right back through the mud, put the saw in the pack basket, took it in and put it in my pack basket and carried it into Carter, demonstrated the saw and come back out. And boy, I sold a lot of saws later on in the woods up there. They thought that was quite a machine.
Well, you sold us our first one-man saw.
Yeah.
And McHale Chainsaw sold us a lot after that.
We sold, we done good business, and my brother Howard and I was into it because the shop was at his house. But we sold as many as 11 new units in a day, and I sold 8 to the farmers in one day. 8 different farmers came in, and that's kind of unusual, you know, in one day. We did quite a business in saws. As a matter of fact, we was by far the biggest retail dealer on the eastern seaboard in chainsaws.
Well, not just that, but your service is what made the difference, because you were there so many hours.
Well, we guaranteed service till midnight, and you see, that there was a great asset to the farmer, as well as the guy that's working in the woods, because they'd put it off till night if the saw didn't work, or the farmer, he's out cutting wood and the saw quits or something, he can't start it. So he doesn't have to rush down with it. He waits till he does his chores and brings it in at night. And that was a big help to the farmers, and that's what they liked about it. They could get their saw fixed anytime they come. and the sound on that thing, yeah. And then, well, I was in the chainsaw business for 10 years, and then I decided to go back in logging again, because I liked the logging end of it better than I did the chainsaw business. So then my brother, of course, he had 2 hired men that worked for him, and he's a crew, and so I went in alone on a different job, see. Then later on, he and I were back together again when the jobs came just right. He didn't have any timber, and I had all kinds of it, so I took his men and him on my job, and we always worked together after that. And so it made it nice that we could be together like that. And we worked, we quit logging about 73, I think it was, is when we quit logging.
Aside from the chainsaws changing things, what other differences have you seen in logging?
Well, of course, we started back, when we first started back, it was all horses, you know, and cross-cut saws. And I run cross-cut saws by the hour. And in the beginning, you know, and there's now you take like years and years ago when they'd be putting up softwood, they'd put it up, you know, and they'd have it in the fall of the year. They'd peel all summer long during the peeling time, and then they'd skid that up and put it in the skidways out right on the edge of the river bank. They'd select a spot, you know, to land it. They had the foreman from the Gould Paper Company would come along and tell them to put a skidway right there and one right here, because he wanted a kind of a run-in, see? And they'd put up high skidways, and then when it come time in the spring of the year when the water was high and they was getting ready to let these logs down, they would just chop that front off there, each one of them, see, on each side, and after a while, when they chop it right down tight, see, so it wouldn't hold the logs back. And when that thing let go loose, you know, why they jumped back and the logs went right in the river. Boom, 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 down the river they'd go. And this, of course, was the log drive. It was a great thing. They came from everywhere to watch the log drive. It was very interesting to see.
You probably had the Moose River right on your property, didn't you?
Well, yes, we owned on the other side, yeah.
So a lot of the logs you cut probably just were piled by the river.
Well, we didn't, no, we didn't ship any down the river. We hauled across the river. We always, our logs, of course, was always drawn on the sleighs, or we had them on trucks or something like that. We drew out logs on sleighs when I was young fellow, I can remember that. But the logging process was quite a deal. I remember when I'd be in school up there, and the drive would be coming down, they're getting ready for the drive. They'd be about 5 feet of snow right on the level, you know. But they'd open up early, you know, on the thing, because the weather was just changing. It was beginning to, the river was coming up, you know, but the snow was still staying. And they'd have a tractor with the Michigan plows, and them tractors, you'd hear them coming down, and boy, that would roll that snow out, and they'd dip up in the road. Sometimes they'd scoop in the roads and the banks and everything, but they opened that road right up for the teams to come over it, see. Of course, there was nothing, only horses going over it, but then they would truck their stuff in. We had a driver's camp about a mile up the road here, and that's where they would station. There was one that they'd station up near McHale, but then they'd move down to this one, then they'd move down to the next one. They couldn't work, you know, too far. The men had to walk too far at night when they'd be done, if the camps was too far apart.
Yeah.
So that's why they had to have a middle camp, and they put, Dad here built this camp for them up here, this driver's camp. And the old camp stands there, but the floor was all chewed up, you know, it was a softwood floor, and they come in with corks on and creak, you could hear them going like little wire, just chew right in the the floor, but they didn't pay any attention to that.
Oh no.
The drivers didn't. They didn't care if they cut the floor up. They wouldn't take their corks off when they come in. It was an awful deal. But the floor would take it, only it just tractionized the surface of it.
They must have had a cook that traveled with them.
Boy, when you say cook, they had cooks. There was a fellow when I was a kid coming down from school. I'd come down, I'd always stop at the driver's camp. And I'd go in there, and he was a great hand to cook. And Ted Gorman, his name was. Oh boy, but he could cook. And he was a genius when it come to being able to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were 35 men on the drive, and he packed all their lunches, and he carried the lunches to them, and he did all the cooking in the camp.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, and I'd come home, go down from school, and he'd be sitting there reading, and with the window open, and the breeze would be blowing across, and he'd have a lot of fresh baked stuff there. And I remember those cinnamon rolls. Oh man, they just melt in your mouth. And he said, "Go ahead, take some," and he'd give me pie or anything. Boy, but he really could cook.
And he did. How much help did he have there?
He didn't have a helper. He did that himself.
All alone.
Yeah, sir. He carried it all alone, and he'd pack those lunches for 35 men, you know. But the tables, boy, he'd have the stuff, bread, you know, and I'd have to laugh to see him cutting up stuff. He'd just like they are in the movies, you know. He'd raise the knife up and he'd go down, and then when he went up with his cut, he'd just go chicka, 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 chicka. He'd grab the next one, chicka, 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 just like that. Boy, he was smooth when it come to working. He was fast. Of course, he was a well-built man, you know, and everything, but he sure could work. There's no question. Yeah, he'd carry the lunches down to him. Of course, you see, at lunchtime, they wouldn't be as much more than down like that from the camp. They would be almost back at the camp. They wouldn't be too far to go.
Did he have individual lunch buckets or
no,
bags?
I really don't know how he packed the lunches. I don't know a thing about it. I never seen it, so I couldn't tell you. But I know he took them down. He carried the lunches for those guys and did his own work in the camp.
Made his own bread and all of his
bread,
pastries?
everything. Yeah, he cooked everything. The meat, the hams, everything. Because, boy, he knew just how to do it. Well, this Louis Holland cooked quite a while on the drive, you know, him and his wife. The one that run the diner down there at Port Leyden. Well, they used to cook on the drive, and they were very good cooks, the Holland was. Yeah, well, then we just kept in the logging business, and we bought different trucks. Finally, we got kind of in the lumber business, and we had them sawed down here at the sawmill. Bullock moved in down here and to cut off, and he had a sawmill, and he talked us into sawing our logs and drawing lumber. So we drawed lumber to Odessa for quite a few years.
To Odessa?
Odessa, yeah, way down below Ithaca.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, you didn't mind it. Well, the old truck would bang and whang going down the hill into Ithaca. Boy, how them trucks would snap, all of them. They'd just about blow the people out of the bed, you know, backfiring. But I didn't mind that so much, but when they got down to Ithaca and you started up towards Kyoto, was just like that, you know, and you'd grind and grind up them hills. Oh, that was tiresome, you know. But we'd leave here at night, you know, probably 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night and drive all night long. So you'd be in the yard by 7 in the morning, and you'd be probably the first truck unloading.
What was in Odessa that you carted lumber that far?
Well, that's Cotton and Hamlin, the lumber company.
Okay.
And they made a lot of stuff, you know. They're a big outfit, Cotton and Hamlin. And they had lumber stackers and everything, you know. They just, regular forklifts, they'd shove that right in there. That'd come right out and just, it would stack the lumber, one tier, and then they'd put the stickers right on the stack. Everything was automatic.
Mm-hmm.
That lumber stacker. Boy, that thing I imagine cost a fortune. But they had a big dry kilns and everything there.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sometimes, if it didn't work out right, I'd go in the dry kiln and sleep in there. And it was nice. It was always nice and warm in the dry kiln. You could go in there. It was nice and warm.
So where did other wood go from around here? It didn't all go to Odessa.
Well, the lumber did that we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hardwood lumber.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And that all went to Odessa that we saw it. And of course, Bolig's truck was drawn, and he had others that drove too from there, because you saw more than 2 truckloads.
Mm-hmm.
Using straight jobs or trailers?
They were straight jobs, no tractor trailers, all straight jobs.
Didn't have any lumber yards around here at the time?
Well, there's lumber yards, but not that was paying the way cotton and handling was.
Mm-hmm.
And everything. Sure, there was lumber yards here, but most the yards around here bought logs and did their own sawn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or to Krogan. See, they bought the logs in, and down to Herkimer, Library Borough, they buy the logs and do their own sawn.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought they were getting by cheaper, but later on they told me they can buy them cheaper from the overseas market, or Canada or somewhere else. They can buy them a lot cheaper and they can afford to saw them, so they're not sawing so much now.
Mm-hmm.
They're buying the lumber in, and that was kind of bad. There's so many things that could, make a difference with this country.
Mm-hmm.
If they would go back to the older style of doing things. But
what specifically do you think would be good to go back to?
What would be the best? Well, now you see, here's one thing that I highly object to, is this hardwood pulp end of it. They go in the woods and they cut down the nicest, the healthiest little trees, they're about a foot on the stump or so, and that's all going into pulp, and they chip the top. But look at how long it's going to take to have a forest back where that is. Once it's cut off like that, 100 years, there won't be a good stand of timber there.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we cut it off, you could always cut a nice cut of timber. Along about 20 years, you could get another good cut, because we left the trees, and they just chopping down everything. And of course, they will, it'll grow up, there's no question it'll grow up, but it'll grow up into a bunch of brush for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Once you take out all the trees out of it.
It's a slow growing crop.
Yeah, before that gets into, good timber again, it'll take them 100 years to grow a good line of timber there. Trees don't grow that fast,
No, and the deer, I think, take a lot of them when they're
Yeah,
young.
there's a lot of things. Of course, this acid rain, I think, is slowing down everything. I know there isn't 1/10 part of the birds here now that there was. You look out there, you don't see a bird anywhere, just a crow once in a while, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got nothing to crow about, but he's out there. But
What kinds of birds did you used to see?
oh, there was everything. Of course, the swallows. They'll be back here. The swallows come every year, but there's the swallows and the robins, and we had the crows and the whippoorwills, and we had a lot of birds. There was the chickadees, and we had them all. The finches.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of birds, but today you don't see birds. The other morning there was 4 or 5 birds out there in the tree, and they haven't been back since. They flew away. I haven't seen them. They just stopped there to rest or something.
You try to feed them here, do you?
Well, not much myself, but I fed some blue jays out there. You put it out, the blue jays will drive them all off, and away they go with the feed.
Uh-huh.
They're kind of a nuisance, the blue jays.
Oh, but they're pretty.
Yeah, they are, but I saw one cardinal here one time.
Uh-huh.
It just as red, and
Oh,
boy,
yeah.
could he sing.
Uh-huh.
I had him on tape and it burned up, you know. I went out there with a tape recorder and I taped him singing in that tree. You could hear him just as plain as could be. That burned up in the fire.
You must have lost quite a lot that
Oh
was
my
valuable.
gosh, I lost. So I guess I did.
You had a lot of mementos and family history.
Yeah, we had, well, things that can't be replaced, pictures and things like that. I had a big album to the kids growing up, my children, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they, it is true, there was so many things. We had a picture of Mother when she was 17, you know, and she was a big picture of her there when she was married, boy, but you feel bad to see something like that because you can't take her picture again at 17.
No.
No.
No, and of course pictures of Dad. And, well, I have some pictures left yet, but I lost most of my pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the loss, oh, it was terrible. I had 4 violins and 2 violas,
Mm-hmm.
and a suitcase full of harmonicas, and you know, the one that I used to start my entertainment with was a $150 harmonica.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
That was nice. It was plastic. Of course, they discontinued making that because maybe it might have cost them more to do it than what is profitable to do, you know.
So you're an entertainer too, then?
Well, no, a detainer. No, I used to go out quite a lot. I had the amplifier, you know, things like that. I used to entertain. I've been around quite a bit on the entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Playing your harmonica.
Yeah, I had to laugh. The woman over to Beaver Falls, she calls me up and says, now let's see. She says, what do you do? She said, you play the harmonica and the guitar. And then she said, you got those dancers. And she said, what else do you do? And I said, oh my gosh, I wouldn't tell you that. And then she had to laugh at me. Yeah, I wouldn't tell you that.
So do you still have dancers?
Well, yes, they're little wooden men like that there.
You probably lost some of those in the
Oh,
fire.
they burned up. Everything burned up. Of course, I got a replacement on them, but
The trouble is, you can't insure or anticipate the amount of loss that you have in a fire like that.
well, when I sat down and see the way I did it is I just could see the room,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote down everything I could see in the room, and then I went to the next room so I wouldn't miss anything. And well, it was tremendous. It was tremendous. Right in the woodshed out here alone. I jumped to the woodshed because that was quite a loss out there. To start with, I just got 275 gallons of kerosene. It was right full, the thing was. They just filled it. And it was right up to the top. That was 275 of kerosene. Then I had a table saw and a radio saw and two chainsaws, one brand new John Surratt $600 saw, you know, and another smaller one that I had for lemon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And why there was, I had an antique sewing machine out there in the shed, and I had the tongs and chains and tire chains, and well, you couldn't begin to think of the things that's out there. And that shed heavy battery chargers, you know, and welders, electric welders, acetylene outfit. I had to pay $275 for the acetylene tanks because I'm only renting them, you know. And they burned up. My torches burned with them, you know. And that cost another $250.
So you're a welder too?
Yeah, they burned everything. Burned in the woodshed there. But that was a funny thing. In entertaining, I made a little wooden box, and it was probably about 8 inches wide and probably a foot high. And just to put my foot on when I'm entertaining, to raise it up so I hold the guitar up better, see? And that wooden box sat right beside the two gas cans full of gas, 2 5-gallon cans, and that is right there with the chainsaws. It sat right in with the chainsaws and those 2 gas cans and the table saw was all right there, and they burned right to nothing. And that wooden box didn't burn up. Now that's something that's the hardest thing. I couldn't believe it when I went to see that wooden box. And why? Everything burned around it. Even the ladder up above it. I had a 30-foot extension aluminum ladder, and that burned, you know, right into little pieces. But it didn't burn that wooden box. Just charred one side of it.
Still use it?
Well, I could use it. I got it out in the barn. You wouldn't believe it yet. But I haven't entertained with it and thing there. I went without it. It's a rule. I got better. I knew how to do it a little better, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
No, of course, I used to tell stories, jokes, you know, for my entertainment. And I'd sing songs. And of course, I never was a singer. I never figured I did anything good. But I used to like to tell jokes. And I could tell jokes, you know, till the cows comes home, as a matter of fact. There's quite a few jokes, but you keep, any time that I heard one that I liked, I'd try to remember that one, see? Mm-hmm. And because I always thought that a good joke was something you should remember. Mm-hmm. But I tell the one about the little girl that she was a Catholic and she'd gone to church there right along, and she had a dog, and the dog, she thought the world and all of that dog. Oh boy, there's nothing but that dog in her life. And the dog died. Oh, she felt so terrible. And so she went down to the priest and she says, Father, she says, do you think you could give my dog a good burial? Well, of course, the priest, you know, he kind of frowns on this idea. Well, Mary, he says, there's a minister up the street, he said, and I'm sure that he'd be glad to do it for you. Well, she says, thank you, Father. So she goes over and opens the door and starts to step out, and she says, Father, now you think that he'll bury that dog for $300? Well, Mary, he said, why didn't you say it was a Catholic dog? You wasn't going to let that $300 get away.
I guess not.
And then I tell the one about the priest that went to the horse race. And he went over in front of the horse and he blessed the horse, said a few prayers, and zingo, that horse come right in first. And this Baptist, he saw that. So, second heat, and the priest went over and he made the sign of the cross and he blessed him, and the horse first just like nothing. So he did this 3 times, and each time the horse won. So it comes the 4th time, and the priest went over and he blessed the horse, and the Baptist, he jumped right up and he rushes right over to the window and he says, I want to bet all my money, he says, on that horse. So of course they'd take his bet, there was no question of that. So the bing, and the horse starts, and the horse is way ahead, and he gets in the middle of the track and he drops dead. Well, the Baptist goes over and he said, Father, how come? He said, every time, he said, you bless that horse, he won. He said, and this last time, he said, he dropped dead. Oh, he says.
Gave him the last rites instead, huh?
Yeah, I can see, he said, you're no Catholic. He said, you can't tell the difference between the last rites and the blessing.
Right.
Yeah, he was going to get them. Oh, they have so many, like the morons, you know, they're out fishing in a boat, and they kept drifting out, and finally they got so they couldn't hardly see the shore, and they run right into a school of fish. Man, they hauled all the fish they wanted up out of there, and the old guy, he's up in front of them, we're going with the oars there, and he's oaring away, getting back towards shore. He says, John, we should have marked the place where we caught those fish. Well, he says, I did. He says, I'd cut a little notch right in the boat right there. So he goes on, he rows on a while, and finally he says, well, that's all right, but suppose we don't get the same boat the next time. Then they couldn't find the fish.
Yeah.
Oh, it certainly, in night court, the jokes I always told was a clean joke. I never tell a good joke. I didn't believe in that. It's kind of stupid, I think, as far as I'm concerned, because if they don't care for a clean joke, well, then it's too bad.
You used to go to nursing homes and various things like that a lot, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I've done pretty good. I've played in the nightclubs in Utica, in Twin Ponds and Diplomats. And I played in the big churches down there and entertaining, of course. And I've even been on television. So, you know, I've done fairly good. And I had to laugh. One guy said, where did I see you before? Well, I said, I imagine senior citizens in Lowville, usually 500 there, you know. And I said, probably there. I said to her, you're over in that, he's in that area off towards Beaver Falls. I said, of course, I've entertained in Beaver Falls. I said, all through that area. And, no, he said, I haven't seen you like that. I never saw you. He said, was you ever on television? I said, yeah, that's where I saw you. He said, I had to laugh. He's the only one I ever saw that said they saw me on television. But
struck a memory.
Yeah, it was a memory. But
now, how did you happen to be on television?
Well, it's with these dancers that I had there. It's what it is. I have a daughter, and she'll be here for Easter. They're all coming here, her and her husband and their children. And she lives in West Virginia. And this is known as a West Virginia stamper doll, is what they are. And they were manufactured out in West Virginia. And it was funny, when I went out there, I went to the factory where they're made. And I thought I was going to see quite a crew, and there's 2 people. And that's all it was that worked there. There was a girl from Australia, and she was a painter. And she'd paint those things, and a crippled guy made them. And he would tighten the rivet, and he'd move it, and he'd tighten the rivet, and he'd move it. And everything worked with a jig, of course, to saw it out, but everything was patented about it. And they're little dancing jacks about this high.
Do you have some
Yeah.
that you'd show us?
Yeah, I have them here. Virginia stamper doll. And this one here was my daughter got that. She saw them and thought I'd have a little fun with them, see? And so, because I live alone, and I could play with it anytime I wanted to. And she said, Dad, I thought you'd like that. So she got that there, and I took it and I practiced a little with it. It seems that the mountaineers, they use these dancing jacks to entertain their children. See, in the mountains out there, they don't have nothing much to do. So they entertain their children with these dancing jacks. And so I practiced